Chapter 1. At the company's year-end bonus distribution, my wife, Victoria Ashton, directly awarded her secretary, Ethan Vance, a grand villa worth millions of dollars. A brilliant smile spread across Ethan's face as he planted a kiss on Victoria's cheek. "Thank you for the reward, Miss Ashton. I'll strive to repay you even better in the future." Watching their intimate display, I quietly left the hall. But Victoria wasn't pleased with my reaction and rushed over to block my path. "Sincere Mason, what on earth is your problem? I've told you 1,000 times, there's nothing between Ethan and me. This is purely based on his performance." Hearing the word performance left a bitter taste in my mouth. That success was clearly my achievement, yet no one seemed willing to believe me. This broken marriage, I didn't want it anymore. Just as I left the bonus ceremony hall, Ethan's eager voice followed. "Ms. Ashton, is Mr. Mason upset? Perhaps I shouldn't accept this villa to avoid causing friction between you two." As he spoke, Ethan handed back the villa keys. Victoria's expression darkened. "Kinda what's given is given. Why should you care if he's upset or not? And he does nothing at home all day. And now he thinks he can dictate what I do. And I've indulged him too much." Hearing Victoria's impatient tone, bitterness washed over me. This wasn't the first time she had treated me like this. After our startup succeeded, she claimed she didn't want me working too hard, so I shifted my focus primarily to our home life. Precisely because of this, Victoria felt I was no longer contributing to her success and grew increasingly impatient with me. But she seemed to forget. The initial investments her company received were largely thanks to investors who trusted me. Connections often tied to my father's reputation. Flush with funding, Victoria became self-satisfied, treating the company as solely her own. I was curious to see how long she could keep this up without my help. Returning home, the house felt cold and empty. I went to the kitchen intending to cook for myself, when my phone buzzed with a notification. Opening it, I saw Victoria had posted on her social media feed, "Undedicated secretary is worth having." The picture showed Ethan wearing only shorts and an apron, looking as if he was making hangover soup for Victoria. Observing the suggestive atmosphere between them, I felt numb. From the first time Ethan provoked me, I knew they would eventually cross that line, but I hadn't expected it to happen so soon. Still, what did their actions matter to me? We were heading for divorce. These things were irrelevant now. I put my phone aside and continued preparing my meal. However, just as I was about to chop vegetables, Victoria suddenly sent me a short video. It showed Ethan spoon-feeding hangover soup to her, but the video was retracted within a minute. Then a message from Ethan arrived. "Mr. Mason, sorry, I forwarded that to the wrong person." I saw right through Ethan's petty games. I simply replied with "okay," and said nothing more. Victoria didn't come home that night. I enjoyed the peace and quiet. The next morning, well past the start of the workday, I still hadn't gone to the office. Victoria couldn't stand it anymore. I was woken by relentless ringing. As soon as I answered, before I could utter a word, Victoria's sharp scolding erupted. "Sincere Mason, what stunt are you pulling now?" Chapter 2. Since I had too much to drink at the reception last night, Ethan was just taking care of me. Why make such a big deal out of a small thing and skip work today? Victoria's accusatory voice pounded in my head. "Didn't I submit a leave request? What? Didn't you see it?" Hearing my voice, Victoria checked her phone and indeed found my request. But someone like her would never admit fault. "Sincere, you're a CEO founder of this company. You need to set an example. Sin, if you want leave, come to the office and request it in person." She deliberately emphasized the last part of the sentence. I understood her implication. Since I had already decided on divorce, a trip to the company wouldn't hurt. With that thought, I changed my clothes and headed straight to the office. Upon arriving, I found Ethan waiting for me. His face was flushed, and his eyes held a look of provocation and mockery. Seeing me, Ethan hurried over. "Mr. Mason, Miss Ashton asked me to greet you." Ethan walked beside me, subtly revealing the distinct love bite on his neck. He kept testing my reaction, but as someone already set on divorce, why would I bother with someone so beneath contempt? "Miss Ashton, Mr. Mason is here." Hearing Ethan's voice, Victoria glanced up at me, her dissatisfaction instantly visible. "What are you wearing? Can't you learn from Ethan and put some effort into your appearance?" Victoria's disdainful words filled my ears, but I paid them no mind. I pulled the prepared divorce agreement from my canvas bag and tossed it onto her desk. "Victoria Ashton, let's get a divorce." My words hung in the air. Victoria paused, her face hardening. "Sincere Mason, what did you just say?" Before I could respond, Ethan chimed in with his explanation. "Mr. Mason, please don't misunderstand Miss Ashton and me. And last night, Miss Ashton drank too much and vomited on me. That's why I had to change clothes." Though Ethan feigned explanation, the provocation in his eyes was blatant. I ignored Ethan's voice, fixing my gaze firmly on Victoria. I said, "I want a divorce." The moment the words left my mouth, fire erupted in Victoria's eyes. She slammed her hands on the desk and shot up. "Sincere, there's a limit to your jealous tantrums. On divorce? In your dreams." Victoria snatched the divorce agreement, tore it into pieces, and threw them in my face. "Sincere, even threats have limits. On divorce is going too far." Victoria, I'm not threatening you. If you really won't agree to a divorce, then we'll proceed through legal channels." My voice was cold and resolute. Victoria's face turned black. Her brazen eyes scanned me, searching for any sign of weakness. However, she failed. Realizing I was serious about the divorce, Victoria stated her terms. "Sincere, you want a divorce? Fine, but you leave with absolutely nothing." Hearing Victoria's shameless demand, I couldn't help but sneer. "Victoria, are you dreaming? Once you're the one who cheated, and you expect me to leave with nothing? What? Have the past few years gone to your head so much that you can't even tell who's at fault?" Victoria, who had never seen me so assertive, turned livid. I gave her no time to breathe, immediately stating my demands. When the company is split 50-50, and all marital assets belong to me. Chapter 3. Hearing my demands, Victoria's voice rose sharply. "Sincere, have you lost your mind over money? Do you know how much the company is worth? Do you know how much our marital assets amount to? Making such outrageous demands, let me tell you clearly, it's absolutely impossible. And since it's impossible, then let's take it to court." I gave Victoria no leeway. Things had already reached this point, might as well escalate further. Victoria looked at my seemingly naive stance and scoffed. "Court? Sincere, what grounds do you have? Xinjiang culture has a seasoned legal team, and you're just one person." She paused here, her eyes filled with playful contempt. "What makes you think you can win against me?" Hearing Victoria's words, I laughed mockingly. She seemed to have forgotten that the company's initial formation relied entirely on me. Not to mention the seasoned legal team she boasted about. They were elite lawyers gifted to me by my father. Why would they turn against me at her command? "Victoria, let's part amicably. We're adults. Maintain some dignity." After saying this, I turned to leave. Seeing my indifferent attitude, Victoria rushed forward in a few quick steps and blocked me. "Sincere Mason, did I say you could leave?" She grabbed my wrist tightly. I don't know how much force she used, but my wrist instantly bruised. I didn't indulge her either, lifting my leg and kicking her sharply. "Victoria, act like a human being." Feeling the sharp pain, Victoria released my hand. Ethan, standing nearby, quickly rushed to support her. "Miss Ashton, are you all right?" "And let me check." As he spoke, Ethan's hand moved towards Victoria's waistband. Watching their incredibly suggestive actions, I quickly covered my eyes. What an eyesore. Witnessing this scene was truly unlucky. I shrugged my shoulders, preparing to leave again, when Ethan blocked me once more. "Mr. Mason, you've gone too far, and Ms. Ashton only had your best interests at heart, and you treated her like this. Apologize." Looking at Ethan, I didn't hold back, landing a slap across his face. "Ethan, go see a doctor. A brain is a terrible thing to waste. And stay out of my face in the future next time. I won't be so gentle." As I said this, I raised my hand slightly. Ethan reflexively flinched and retreated back to Victoria's side. Seeing the scumbag and the adulteress huddled together, I suddenly felt a pent-up frustration release from my chest. Indeed, in life, one should never back down, leaving Keon culture. I suddenly felt a wave of relief, both physically and mentally. The storm clouds would eventually pass. After I left the company, Ethan no longer suppressed his feelings and quickly started massaging Victoria. "Miss Ashton, Mr. Mason seemed genuinely angry this time. Maybe I should apologize to him tomorrow? His constant misunderstanding of us isn't good." The more Ethan said this, the angrier Victoria became. She felt as if something important was slipping from her grasp. "Own apologize for what? Can I really have indulged him too much? In giving him half the company? That's just daydreaming." Victoria's tone was filled with fury. Just then, the sales department manager rushed in, looking extremely anxious. "Miss Ashton, terrible news. Mr. Preston and the other investors suddenly pulled their funding chapter." Hearing the sales manager's words, Victoria's face fell. What exactly happened? When we have new projects with Mr. Preston and the others, why would they suddenly withdraw funding? The sales manager looked troubled and could only voice his uncertainty. "Mr. Preston and his group are Mr. Mason's contacts. We don't know the specifics." Hearing my name, Victoria's eyes filled with rage, and she spat through gritted teeth. "Sincere Mason." Victoria struggled to control her emotions. "And send you head back first. I'll figure out what to do about Mr. Preston." After the manager left, Ethan spoke up. "Ms. Ashton, I have a great idea to bring Mr. Mason back." Ethan whispered something in Victoria's ear. Her expression grew increasingly grave. Though it wasn't a great plan, it was a long shot, perhaps the only option left. Without hesitation, Victoria drove straight home. When she arrived, I had already packed most of my belongings. Seeing my luggage, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes. "Sincere, I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me, okay?" As Victoria moved closer, a cloying perfume scent wafted over. The smell nauseated me, and I pushed her away forcefully. "Sincere, I think I might be pregnant." Victoria frowned for a moment, then looked at me with a face full of joy. "Pregnant?" Hearing such an unexpected word left me utterly bewildered. How could she be pregnant? Although I had always wanted children, Victoria had dismissed the idea, citing the early stages of her career. After that, we had always used protection. So how could this happen now? While I was still puzzled, Victoria grabbed my hand. "Sincere, take me to the hospital for a checkup." Without waiting, Victoria dragged me to the hospital. After a series of tests, I was exhausted, a wave of drowsiness washing over me. As I dozed off nearby, Victoria's excited voice rang out. "Sincere, it's been 2 months we're having a baby." 2 months? How was that possible? Ever since Ethan became Victoria's secretary, she was rarely home. How could she be pregnant? "Sincere, I must throw a party to announce my pregnancy to the world." Seeing Victoria's excitement, a growing sense of unease crept into my heart. She was acting too abnormally. Victoria's execution this time was remarkably swift. Having confirmed the pregnancy just that morning, she immediately organized a banquet that evening, inviting all of Keon Group's partners and investors. Upon hearing Victoria was pregnant, they offered hearty congratulations. Caught up in the atmosphere, I pushed my suspicions to the back of my mind. That night, Victoria returned home drunk. As soon as she collapsed onto the bed, a message from Ethan arrived. "Miss Ashton, the plan succeeded. Mr. Preston and the others have restored their investment. The crisis is averted. No wonder Mr. Preston had been subtly probing me during the banquet today. Now it seemed he was trying to confirm something with me. With this thought, I didn't hesitate and contacted Mr. Preston directly. Mr. Preston told me he invested in Victoria primarily out of respect for my father. He had people inside Keon culture. The sound of my argument with Victoria in the office that day had been overheard. So, upon receiving the news, he had immediately withdrawn his investment. But just as he withdrew it, Victoria announced her pregnancy. Out of consideration for me, Mr. Preston not only reinvested but increased the amount significantly this time. After hanging up, I curled up on the sofa alone, filled with doubt. How could Victoria get pregnant precisely when Mr. Preston pulled his funding? The more I thought about it, the more something felt wrong. There was something fishy about this pregnancy. With this suspicion growing, I went straight to the hospital the next day. Chapter 5. Number 23, Sincere Mason. Hearing the announcement, I took the results sheet and entered the consultation room. Sincere? A surprised voice greeted me. Grace Mercer, upperclassman? I hadn't expected to run into Grace in the obstetrics and gynecology department. She was an upperclassman from my university club. Back then, she wanted to transfer to medicine. I hadn't realized she'd actually succeeded. This is OB/GYN, what brings you here? Grace looked me up and down curiously. We exchanged a few pleasantries before getting to the point. Upperclassman, could you take a look at this for me? Hearing my request, Grace focused her attention on the results sheet. No major issues, the fetus is developing well, but the mother's constitution seems a bit weak, needs extra care. So she's really pregnant? Grace looked puzzled by my question. Hey, didn't you give me this report? This is your wife, right? Congratulations. Confirmation of Victoria's pregnancy only muddled my thoughts further. Upperclassman, thank you for today. I'll treat you to dinner another time. I said goodbye to Grace and was about to leave when I saw Victoria. Ethan was with her, both looking pleased. They were also heading to the OB/GYN department. In that instant, everything clicked. Victoria was pregnant, but the child wasn't mine, it was Ethan's. They had done this purely to secure Mr. Preston's continued investment. After all, Mr. Preston was Keon Culture's largest investor. Suppressing my fury, I discreetly took pictures of the two of them together constantly. I wanted to see how Victoria would explain this later. Victoria didn't return until late at night. There was a clear lipstick mark on the collar of her white blouse. Seeing me, her face instantly lit up with a brilliant smile. Sincere, the company's holding a celebration meeting tomorrow. You absolutely have to come. Without you, the company couldn't have reached this new height. I silently evaded her embrace, giving her a cold look. I knew my chance had arrived. The next day, I arrived at the company early. As soon as I walked in, I saw Ethan standing in the center of a crowd, flamboyantly showing off his suit. It was the custom suit Victoria had originally ordered for me. I had found it too flashy back then and never wore it. Later, it mysteriously disappeared. At the time, Victoria had been extremely dismissive, giving me a credit card and telling me to buy something I liked. Now it was clear. The suit wasn't lost. It was given away seeing me arrive. Ethan walked over quickly, his face split into a wide grin. Mr. Mason, you're finally here. What do you think of my suit? Not bad, huh? As he spoke, Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. Sincere, tell me, how can you possibly compete with me? Hearing Ethan's words, I chuckled softly. Just a piece of trash, yet you treat her like a treasure. Instantly, Ethan's expression turned ugly. Just as he was about to confront me, Victoria arrived. Seeing Victoria enter, Ethan smiled and walked up, intimately wrapping an arm around her waist. Victoria didn't push him away, instead linking her arm through his as they stepped onto the raised platform. Keon Culture is about to go public. A more tremendous progress is all thanks to Ethan's hard work. Before Victoria could finish, Ethan's excited voice interjected. Oh, no. This is all thanks to Miss Ashton. Without her guidance, I wouldn't be where I am today. Ethan gazed fondly at Victoria, a sticky thread of connection stretching between their eyes as they drew closer and closer. Finally, unable to control his emotions, Ethan leaned in and pressed his lips against Victoria's. Victoria froze for a second, then responded enthusiastically. In an instant, the entire office was filled with the sounds of their passionate embrace. Just as they were lost in their kiss, an abrupt voice cut through the air. Isn't that Ms. Ashton? Chapter. At this remark, everyone's gaze shifted to the large screen. Displayed were my marriage certificate with Victoria, alongside intimate pictures of Victoria and Ethan. The photos I took at the OB/GYN clinic that day now served their purpose well. And Ms. Ashton married Mr. Mason, yet she's cheating with Ethan. Most importantly, they went to the OB/GYN together, which means the baby Miss Ashton is carrying is. Their murmurs trailed off, sympathetic eyes turning towards me. However, the couple on stage was too engrossed to notice the change in atmosphere. One of the veteran employees, who had been with Victoria and me from the early days, couldn't bear it any longer. She threw the celebratory confetti popper in her hand directly at them. Adulterous woman, despicable homewrecker. Her action prompted other employees who disliked Victoria and Ethan to also throw their poppers. Hearing the commotion, Victoria hadn't yet reacted when she felt a sharp pain in her arm. Just as she was about to erupt in anger, a deluge of confetti rained down on her. Ethan, beside her, looked panicked. Ms. Ashton, the baby, protect the baby. Ethan was desperate to secure his position. Blurting out the baby's existence at this moment perfectly solidified the proof of Victoria's affair. What a helpful assist once the assault of confetti subsided. Ethan shielded Victoria behind him. Have you all lost your minds? Son, you dare attack me? Do you want to get fired? The employee who first attacked Victoria, hearing her threat, tore off her employee badge and threw it on the floor. Fine, I quit. And having a boss like you is shameful. With that, she walked decisively and stood behind me. Following her example, all the former loyal employees who had journeyed with us step by step came to stand behind me as well. Victoria watched them, her eyes blazing with fury. Oh, it's you all. Fine, just fine. She retracted her gaze, fixing it on me, her tone accusatory. Sincere Mason, are you satisfied now that you've made such a mess? I didn't answer her question, staring straight at her instead. Victoria Ashton, the child you're carrying, is it mine? Hearing my question, a fleeting panic flashed in Victoria's eyes. Of course. When I lie to you about something like this? Her voice dwindled, lacking conviction even to herself. Although I already knew the answer, confirmation still filled my heart with pain. Just then, Ethan, who had been silent, suddenly darted forward. He knelt directly in front of me. But Mr. Mason, please don't blame Miss Ashton. She only did it to save the company, when we just made a mistake after drinking too much. If you're really angry, then blame me. Seeing Ethan act so humbly, any lingering guilt Victoria might have felt towards me vanished completely. She helped Ethan up. Why are you apologizing to him? When A's an employee of the company, contributing is what he should do. Hearing Victoria's clueless remark, I truly wondered what I had ever seen in her. I didn't want to waste any more words on her. I threw the divorce agreement straight at her face. Divorce? Fine. Divorce, you can have the other assets too, but the company must be mine. I knew exactly what Victoria was scheming. Now that Kian Culture was heading for an IPO, its value was different. Trading useless assets for a money-making machine seemed like a win in any calculation. However, if Victoria truly had the capability, perhaps she could hold on to the company. Fine, I agree to your terms. Chapter. Without hesitation, fearing I might change my mind, Victoria immediately took me to the registry office. After the 30-day mandatory cooling-off period, we would be completely done. But Ethan couldn't seem to wait even 30 days. As soon as Victoria and I separated, she immediately bought Ethan a new villa. As for the one previously awarded to him, those funds counted as marital assets, so it became mine. I liquidated all the assets I received from the divorce settlement and started a new company. The employees who had stood firmly behind me became the core members of the new venture. Under my dedicated management, the company quickly found its footing. Former clients of Kian Culture, learning I had started my own firm, terminated their contracts with Victoria one after another and came to partner with me. Some clients even preferred paying breach of contract penalties, trusting my capabilities more. After all, my track record spoke for itself. Victoria, preoccupied with planning her wedding to Ethan, naturally didn't notice the company's shifting fortunes. As for the remaining staff at Kian Culture, a bunch of incompetent fools idiots Victoria had hired herself. How would they notice these changes? Victoria and Ethan's wedding was conveniently scheduled for the exact day the divorce cooling-off period ended. She was just waiting to get the divorce certificate from me and immediately marry Ethan. However, what she didn't expect was that instead of me, she was greeted by the police. Victoria had betrayed me. How could I let her off so easily? I directly reported her for bigamy. On her wedding day, Victoria received a pair of silver handcuffs and was arrested on the spot. Ethan stood frozen, his face numb. Later, I heard Ethan apparently trashed the entire wedding venue. The money Victoria had given him? He'd spent it all on luxury goods and couldn't afford the damages. Ultimately, he had to mortgage the new villa. After all, he was now legally Victoria's husband. Whether bailing her out or handling company matters, he was responsible. Getting Victoria released was relatively simple, but Ethan had no desire to do so. He wouldn't give up this rare opportunity to control the company. Ethan installed his own relatives throughout Kian Culture. Instantly, the already crumbling company descended further into chaos and mismanagement. In just half a month, Kian Culture suffered severe financial losses. Desperate, Ethan poured most of the money from the mortgaged villa into the company, but it still showed no signs of recovery. With no other choice, he finally arranged for Victoria's release. "Victoria, I finally get to see you, and to get you out, I had to mortgage our villa." Hearing Ethan's voice, Victoria looked utterly exhausted. "What happened?" "Since it was all sincere, Mason. Opened a new company specifically to target ours, stealing all our clients. Learning I was behind it, Victoria's expression hardened. Tomorrow, launch an all-out attack on Sincere's new company. I'm just a newcomer. How dare he fight me?" Perhaps seeing Victoria this vicious for the first time, Ethan couldn't stop trembling. If Victoria found out what he had done, his future would be grim. With this thought, Ethan began planning how to grab the money and run. Early the next morning, Victoria stormed into my company with a large group of people. "Sincere Mason, get out here." Well, if it isn't Miss Ashton. Freshly released and already starting brawls? Not afraid of going back in? Other employees chimed in, hearing the commotion. "Yeah, Miss Ashton, remember to obey the law, otherwise the company might not survive." Infuriated by their taunts, Victoria kicked over a nearby decorative plant. The pot shattered, scattering soil everywhere. What is all this commotion? Chapter 8. I hadn't intended to engage with Victoria, but her ruckus was simply too loud. I knew her personality. If I didn't come out today, she was capable of tearing my office apart. "Victoria, what are you doing?" Seeing me appear, Victoria's anger intensified. She rushed towards me in a few quick strides. However, before she could reach me, security guards intercepted her. "Sincere Mason, you bastard, and then I see why you gave up the company so easily. You were waiting for this. Where did you get the nerve to poach my clients?" Seeing Victoria losing control, I felt a wave of relief. Thank goodness I discovered her true nature early on and got out. Spending a lifetime with Victoria would have been suffocating, Before I could respond, one of the loyal former employees who followed me spoke up. "And Ashton, wake up. Without Mr. Mason, how could Keon Culture have ever succeeded? Those clients came because of Mr. Mason, and you're nothing but a thief who stole someone else's accomplishments, yet you strut around feeling superior. I really don't know what you have to feel superior about. You can't even handle being kept properly. It's pathetic." Victoria turned purple with rage, utterly exposed by the blunt words. Deep down, she always knew the truth but refused to admit it. Now, faced with the raw truth presented by an outsider, she couldn't accept it. "Nonsense. Keon Culture is my life's work. What does it have to do with Sincere Mason? Stop trying to fool me." Victoria's voice was laced with hysteria. Seizing a momentary gap, she hastily fled. Seeing Victoria leave, Ethan prepared to slip away quickly but was stopped by me. What do you want?" Ethan looked at me, fear in his eyes. "Ethan, walking down dark paths too often never ends well." Just that one sentence from me caused beads of cold sweat to form on Ethan's forehead, his face filled with panic. He didn't answer my question, instead shakily retreating. Later on, to prove her capabilities, Victoria specifically tried to compete with me for projects. However, she didn't know that Ethan had already ruined the company's reputation. They couldn't land any projects. Seeing Victoria overwhelmed and struggling, I added fuel to the fire. I revealed everything Ethan had done during her time away. How could a scumbag and an adulteress possibly have a happy ending? When Victoria learned that while she was incarcerated, Ethan's first priority wasn't rescuing her but seizing power and indulging himself at the company, she finally understood his true nature. She confined Ethan at home, subjecting him to constant orders, verbal abuse, and physical beatings. "You bastard, if it weren't for you, would the company be like this? Damn you, when he really deserved to die." If Ethan showed the slightest disobedience, he faced only punches and kicks. I heard that during the worst incident, Victoria nearly beat him to death. If a neighbor hadn't discovered him early, Ethan might not have survived. After that day, Ethan seemed to have learned his lesson, becoming completely obedient to Victoria. Her temper flared less often. Victoria's attitude towards Ethan softened slightly. She might have thought life could continue this way, but she didn't realize Ethan had no intention of letting her off the hook. On a bright, sunny day, Ethan drugged Victoria's food and ended her life. He then set her body on fire and fled the scene. Chapter 9. When I received this news, I felt a sudden sense of bleakness. I had wanted Victoria and Ethan to tear each other apart, but I never expected them to go to such extremes. Neither spared the other. But again, what did it have to do with me? You reap what you sow. Their fates were their own making, no one else to blame. Since divorcing Victoria, my luck with romance seemed to improve significantly, especially Grace Mercer, my former upperclassman, who showed meticulous care towards me. We were both adults. I understood her intentions. While I wasn't opposed to starting a new relationship, I didn't want to rush into anything. Grace respected my choice, willing to take things step by step. Knowing my preferences, she found a private kitchen known for its light, delicate cuisine. She offered to pick me up, but I declined. Her hospital and my company were in opposite directions. It wasn't convenient. Following the address Grace gave me, I arrived at the restaurant's parking lot. Just as I got out of the car, I felt like someone was behind me. I turned around, but there was no one there. What was going on? Puzzled, I turned back and started walking forward when I heard a whooshing sound through the air. Simultaneously, Grace's worried voice cried out, "Sincere, watch out." Hearing her, I turned to see a disheveled Ethan Vance, wielding a fruit knife, lunging towards me. Ethan was fast, I had no time to dodge. Grace, summoning unknown strength, dashed to my side and pulled me into her arms. Ethan's knife grazed Grace's arm. Blood instantly flowed, staining her sleeve red. "Grace, are you okay?" My eyes filled with concern. However, Ethan gave me no chance to show care. He brandished the knife again, stabbing towards me once more. Sincere, it's all your fault, and it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, why would my life end up so miserably? And just die. Grace got hurt because I was caught off guard. Now alert as Ethan charged again, I kicked him squarely in the chest. Ethan, already weakened from days on the run, had little strength left. My kick made him spit blood. He collapsed like a broken doll on the ground, his face etched with despair, muttering endlessly, "Why? Saint-Twing, why did it turn out like this? Why did you have to ruin me?" Before I could answer Ethan, Grace's stern voice cut in. "You ended up like this because of your own choices. You can't blame anyone else. And I've already called the police, so you can spend the rest of your life repenting in prison." The piercing sound of police sirens arrived. Ethan's future was sealed. After giving our statements to the police, I immediately took Grace to the hospital. Although the wound had received first aid, I was still worried. Grace noticed my concern and joked, "So worried about me, huh? Why don't you marry me then? I'd be okay." Hearing my response, Grace froze. Then her entire face lit up with joy. "Really? Sincere? Are you serious?" "I'm serious." That brush with death made me realize that sometimes you just need to be impulsive. Besides, Grace was genuinely a wonderful person. I was willing to be brave this time. As if afraid I'd change my mind, upon hearing my agreement to marry, Grace immediately went home to get her official documents, and we registered our marriage the same day. Ever since we got married, she often just looked at me with a silly grin. Wherever I went, she followed. The year after we married, our baby was born. With the baby's arrival, Grace focused more on our family. This allowed me to better develop my career. Yet, the child didn't grow distant from me. Instead, they became even more attached. The rainbow before my eyes grew ever more vibrant.